Hi, and welcome to another episode of Sony's Pro Audio Files. My name is Andy Munitz, Product Manager for Sony's Professional Audio Division. And in this video, we'll go into many of the specific menus and operation of the two-channel URX-P41D portable receiver. If you haven't already watched it though, we have another video on the basic features and scanning methods that this model employs. I hope you'll have a chance to watch it if you haven't already. By the way, for the purposes of this video, make sure that in the display that shows both channels at the same time, that the scan type selection reads group. So that we can continue to go through the menu choices on the receiver, let's first change the menu button choice to read Channel 1's submenu. Notice on this home display for Channel 1, the first line indicates that we are looking at Channel 1, its VU meter, and a 3-segment battery meter. On the second line, the 2-digit group is listed and the 4-digit channel indication is shown, where the first 2 digits show which UHF channel is currently chosen, in this case 14, and which of the 47 different wireless mic channels are available within that UHF TV channel, in this case 01. The bottom line shows the actual frequency number for that chosen channel. And finally, the far right of this display shows the signal strength, 2 vertical bars for when only one of the channels is powered on, and a single vertical bar for when both channels are powered on. From here, if we hit the minus button, next down in the receiver menu, again for channel 1, is the band selection. You see, the UWPD series is capable of operating over a very wide bandwidth of available frequencies, up to 72 MHz or 12 UHF TV channels to be exact. Splitting this range into approximate thirds helps reduce scan times, amongst other things. Again, changing this band menu selection will determine which specific frequency range your receiver will scan and operate in when in the scan type group setting. Next is the clear channel scan menu, another method of scanning for quiet channels to use. Once selected with the Set button, it will flash a plus sign at you, suggesting that by hitting the plus button, it will start a scan. Once the scan is finished, by hitting the plus button repeatedly, you can scroll through the available found channels looking at their amount of background noise in dBs for selection and pairing with the transmitter. This method can show you fairly easily which TV channels are available for use in your particular location, and can help in choosing a group to use for a larger multi-channel wireless setup when you find that there are lots of channels within a given TV channel that all show low background noise. Up next is the sync menu. This will have the receiver manually send its current channel selection over to the transmitter via NFC. After that, though, is the Sync TX to RX menu. Now, this one's a bit unique. It simply allows for the transmitter to send its chosen frequency to a receiver channel or multiple receivers via the NFC syncing function. One example of why this might be useful is if you were capturing video with multiple cameras and want the same audio to be sent to all cameras from the same transmitter, or if you're using multiple receivers as personal monitoring devices on set that all need to be listening to the same source, for example, the output of an on-set audio mixer. This function allows for very easy setting of these multiple receivers' frequencies without having to go into manual setting mode of each one. Simply activate this menu and hold each receiver up to the source transmitter's NFC logo. The same NFC pairing vibration confirmation will happen, as with the earlier pairing steps. Next up is channel memory. This one's also pretty unique. This setting allows for quickly changing each of the tuner's 2 channels' frequencies to the previous one that channel was tuned to, and back and forth if needed. By activating this menu, the display will show the current frequency and the previous frequency that this channel had been tuned to, saying either current or previous. Simply hitting either the plus or minus button will change the frequency that the receiver channel will tune into. To get out of this channel memory mode, just activate the Set button again and cancel this function. Think of this channel memory feature as like the Jump or Last button on your TV's remote control. In other words, if you have two presenters showing slides, each with a body pack, you can jump back and forth between their two mics on either of the receiver's two channels. Alternately, if you shoot wedding videos, you can switch between the groom's body pack and the handheld mic that you might pass around to the guests to capture their congratulations. Of course, it should be obvious that having a receiver that can receive two different channels at the same time, as the URX-P41D does, would make for the most direct way of having two transmitters always be recorded onto two channels of your camera. This channel memory feature, though, can just add an extra layer of flexibility if you may have more than two transmitters active at any one time, but not dedicated receivers for all of them. Next in the menu is the Active Channel Scan menu. Active Scan is a scanning function that will look for any active UWPD transmitters already in use in a particular group and band, allowing you to quickly choose to listen in to any of the transmitters in a multi-channel mic setup. Once in this menu, hit the plus button to scan for any transmitters, and hit Set to select that one, or hit plus again to scan for the next available active channel. To escape out of this scan mode, simply hit the minus button. Compander mode. Cycling through the options here will allow for receiver compatibility with Sony's first and second generation UWP or legacy WL800 transmitters. For our purposes here, though, make sure it stays on UWPD for both channels, offering compatibility with both UWPD third and fourth generation models. And finally, the Output Assign menu. Now, this one is also pretty unique. This controls the onboard mixer function independently for channel 1, channel 2, or even for the external microphone input. For example, if you realize that since the URX-P41D is a two-channel receiver and has two audio outputs that normally feed two audio channels on a video, mirrorless, or DSLR camera, then should wireless channel 1 always feed camera channel 1? Perhaps not. This Assign menu allows you to have wireless channel 1 feed out either output 1 or output 2, or even out to both outputs at the same time. This can be handy if doing a broadcast remote live shot, for example, when you don't want to have each talent's voice coming out of only one of the viewer's TV or home audio system's speakers. Assigning to both outputs at the same time will have the voices seem to be coming out of the center between the TV speakers, matching the image. If you'll be editing your file, though, and want discrete control over each channel's audio in post-production, where you might pan them to the center later on, then leave them assigned to their individual channels only. And now for something completely different. If you look at the top of the receiver, you'll notice a mic in connector. This connector will allow you to plug in an external mic from behind the camera and mix it in with the two wireless channels. What could be an application for this? Let's consider that you're not only the cameraman, producer, director, but you are also the off-screen interviewer. By plugging in a lavalier microphone that you are wearing, you can now record your own questions in full fidelity and mix them in with the on-screen talent's voices, making them all available for either post or a live shot. But actually, there's still a bit more. This external mic input can also accept a stereo mic input, such as this little plug-in power stereo mic. By assigning this mic's output to be hard left and right, and either or both of your talent's mics down the middle, you can also capture the stereo ambience of wherever you are shooting. Imagine a news live shot or sporting event with your reporters in mono center, but also being able to have the listener hear the stereo ambient sound or giant stadium crowd in full stereo. How about a wedding where the groom wearing the body pack is transmitting the wedding vows, but at the camera position, you're able to capture the sound of the organ reverberating through the giant space in stereo. It would certainly make watching back that wedding video more engaging from an audio point of view. As you can hopefully see, having this ability adds great audio flexibility to having only a 2-channel camera. And if you take it to the next level, you could even have 4 wireless channels with a second 2-channel receiver's stereo output feeding into the first receiver's stereo mic input. Of course, if your camera already has 4 channels of audio, all channels could be recorded discreetly. So let's have a look at the menu controls available for this external input by hitting the top menu and bringing up the external in page. Scrolling through the menus in this area shows the following. The Mic Select page allows you to select the powering option for a connected microphone, either plug-in power, mono BMP plus 5 volts, or off for when nothing is connected to the external mic input jack. The input level control allows you to mix the level of the external mic up to plus or minus 12 dBs so that it blends in properly with your wireless channels. And don't forget, the URX-P41D has a dedicated headphone out, allowing you to make these mix decisions while listening, even if your mirrorless camera or a DSLR doesn't have a headphone jack. Next is the LCF or low-cut filter frequency choice. Depending perhaps on wind or background noise conditions, this can be set to off, low 100 Hz, mid 150 Hz, or high 200 Hz filter setting. If setting this filter, don't forget to reset it to off for subsequent shoots, perhaps under different conditions. Next is phase. This allows for changing the audio phase of a connected microphone. And finally, the assigned output for the external mic, allowing you to have the external mic channel feed out of either output 1 or output 2 or even out to both at the same time, or hard left and right when using a stereo mic. This works whether you're using cables to send audio out of the receiver or you are connected through the MI shoe. Hitting the front panel menu button one more time will bring up the 4th submenu to look at, which shows a quick glance of both wireless channels at once, as described earlier, plus some utility settings. Moving down its menu choices brings up the following. Phones or headphone level. Pretty obvious, but depending on your headphones of choice, this control can be useful. Next is output level of the receiver. This is adjustable to plus or minus 12 dB, which can be very useful, especially when feeding a DSLR or mirrorless camera that might not have much of an audio control or menu selection. Following this menu is the output mode, which allows for a choice of either normal gain or high gain mode. This high gain mode can be useful for when feeding audio into a DSLR or mirrorless camera with a cable, allowing for boosting the receiver's output level so that the perhaps poor quality audio input electronics of the camera can be set to a lower or less noisy input level. By the way, when connecting the URX-P41D to a Sony camera with the SMAD P5 multi-interface shoe, this choice is not shown. Up next, we see the running time menu. I'm particularly fond of this one, as it can really save you some money in the long run. After selecting this by holding down the Set button, you can then hit the minus button to reset the count-up timer to 0. Then hit the Set button again to store this setting. In other words, every time you put in a fresh set of batteries, be sure to reset this menu to 0. If you used your wireless system for only 2 hours and 43 minutes on today's session, but tomorrow's session is only likely to go for about 2 or 3 hours, you don't have to change the batteries. Of course, you may never really trust your 3-segment battery graph in the home display of the unit, and if only one of the segments was missing, you'd probably change batteries. But now you have an accurate to-the-minute timer that you can refer to. After only a couple of sets of batteries, you'll learn that you can get many hours of life out of 2 AA's. This savings in batteries can really mount up in the course of a year. By the way, as we'll cover, when using the multi-interface or MI shoe, you can power the receiver from your camera's batteries, so keeping batteries in your receiver may not even be necessary. Next in this utility menu is monitor mode. This one is for when using the receiver as a dedicated on-set personal audio monitor, clipped to one's belt, for example. Since the receiver has a dedicated headphone output, it can be used for any application where one just needs to monitor audio. This monitor mode can keep the headphone level control active, and all one needs to do is reach down to your belt-mounted receiver and hit either the plus or minus button to change the headphone level. To escape this mode, simply activate the Set button again and make the escape choice say yes, and hit Set to confirm. On set, for example, people such as the director, boom pole operator, logger, or others in Video Village may need to listen to the output of the audio mixer or an individual talent's mic channel. And this solution provides for a high-quality wireless signal that can be frequency coordinated with the other wireless mics on set. Next up, power source. This setting will determine the power source for the receiver unit. For example, if it's mounted on one of our MI or multi-interface enabled cameras using our SMADP5 MI shoe adapter. That chooses whether to get power either from the receiver's onboard AA batteries or to use power externally from the camera's battery. It also allows for choosing to power the unit from a USB-C connected power supply, such as a cell phone charger or external USB portable power supply. Choosing the battery-only mode will not allow the unit to switch automatically to the other connected power options should the batteries run down. The other selections allow you to choose which power sources take precedent, but allows for auto switching. Next up is sync mode, which allows for communicating to a transmitter via either NFC or near-field communications, or via IR or infrared. The third-generation UWPD transmitters communicate only through this IR method, but the fourth-generation transmitters can communicate through either NFC or IR. For these latest models, the IR receiver is hidden under the transmitter's top panel, just to the right of the NFC logo, and it will react to UWPD third-generation receiver's IR signal. Just point the front of the transmitter towards the IR window on the receiver. It's also good to know that if you already own the third-generation transmitters, you can still use them with the latest URX-P41D dual-channel fourth-generation receiver. Next menu up is the scan type choice that we talked about earlier in this video. This can be set for either group or all band. By the way, this scan type menu selection is not available on our 90 block or 941 to 960 MHz model. Following this is a battery choice option, which will allow the unit's battery meter to work correctly depending on the type of battery you choose to use. Type 1 is for alkaline batteries. Type 2 is for when using 2000 mAh nickel metal hydride rechargeable batteries. Type 3 is for lithium batteries. And Type 4 is for when using 2500 mAh rechargeable nickel metal hydride batteries. The display mode menu allows for the choice of either auto off or dimmer mode, both of which will activate after about 30 seconds. Simply hitting any button again will activate the menu once more. The brightness menu simply adjusts the display brightness level that suits you best. And next, a reset button that will restore the factory default parameters of the receiver. Finally, the last menu will display the URX-P41D's current software revision. Well, that's a pretty detailed view of many of the menus and the operation of our URX-P41D dual-channel wireless receiver. Realize, though, that even with all these menu choices we've looked at, you'll most likely just scan for clear frequencies each time you use the system, sync up the transmitters to match, and you're all good to go. Hopefully this video has given you insights into the operation of the URX-P41D and will help make you the master of your wireless mics. As I'm sure you realize, wireless mics can offer real flexibility when choosing to use them, but without a solid understanding of both their operation and frequency selection, they might offer a bit less than the best results. And finally, I hope you'll have a chance to look for our other videos on UWPD wireless mic operation and UWPD and DWX channels and groups to help complete your understanding of your UWPD wireless mic package. For further information on these and other Sony professional audio products, or for various resource downloads, please visit us at pro.sony/audio. And thanks for watching.